kind of in the mood to do something big.
Did y'all get wood from George Washington?
It served in every major battle in the
Yeah, I noticed that.
It earned 15 battle stars.
That's teamwork right there. Hell yeah.
Today I'm in Fredericksburg, Virginia, where I'll be meeting up with Steve from Black Horse Forge. I have a special request for a one-of-a-kind knife from my friends at Black Rifle Coffee. Black Horse Forge is a nonprofit forge run by veterans and get prescribed men and women from Walter Reed Hospital to come and forge for therapy. Even I have found extreme therapeutic benefits in forging, and all the knives that the students make are sold and the money goes back into the nonprofit to bring more veterans out. Not only do I know the guys at Black Horse Forge can deliver, but I also know I'm going to learn a lot of stuff along the way.
Hey, what's up?
What's up? How you doing, man? Good to see y'all.
We're just trying to figure out what to do today.
All right, so we are making a knife for Johnny Morris, the owner of Bass Pro Shop. Wanted to do something super special and awesome. Knew you guys were the people, so what do you think we could do?
I'm kind of in the mood to do something big.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's kind of perfect timing. You want to grab the template?
Knowing all the American history represented in this build, Steve decided to go with a traditional Bowie style.
You know, if anybody asks if we want to go big, go home. Bowie knives, obviously a very traditional blade.
And I have not done a traditional Bowie yet,
Yeah.
so that would be pretty unbelievable.
We're going to do the San-Mai, which is the nickel on the outside and a high carbon center. So when we etch it, we're going to get a really beautiful contrast.
Oh, amazing. And I heard y'all got some special steel.
So I haven't even opened it up yet. USS North Carolina did a restoration project. There's another veteran that has a contract making the knives. So it's a way to support them. They actually cut shapes and stuff out of the hull. So that's the certificates of authenticity that we'll throw in the mix. And I'll let you unwrap it. See what you got here. Multiple pieces in there. Pretty cool, right? Kept the rust and barnacles on it. They cut the stake for me, and then they cut the battleship. Even that too. Pretty cool pieces, right?
That's unreal.
I'd like to keep probably the battleship, and then we'll use this as the main steel because there's a lot more mass. So what we'll probably do is forge this down, maybe use this for guard material or incorporate in some other ways. But
Oh, that's amazing.
pretty cool.
To go along with the historical value of the blade, Steve has another cool piece of American history that will be used to make the handle.
I have a feeling this wood goes to something super special.
We were fortunate enough to mill the last oak tree that fell at Mount Vernon that had a star and cross that was carved in it by the Union troops. And we've been saving it to do something super cool with.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm excited about the San-Mai. I haven't got the opportunity to do either yet, and I think this is going to be really cool since y'all are especially like a teaching forge. You got a big student here. Well, I feel like we should get some fires going.
Okay.
This piece is definitely going to be epic, and I'm really pumped about it. I just hope I don't mess it up.
Yeah, so I'm taking that around. And that way you'll have your kind of forge.
A little bit of the
on that.
scale on there, and then all this will be that San-Mai.
San-Mai in here.
Beautiful.
Cool.
First thing we're going to do is heat up the steel in the forge to roughly 1500 degrees. Once the steel has reached temperature, we will start to reshape it.
So the first thing we're going to try to do is we're going to try to square the shape up.
Okay.
We have the privilege of having the hydraulic press.
Now we're going to use the hydraulic press to start forming the shape of the guard.
I want you to square it up, keep it this width, and we're going to hot cut a piece off. Then I want you to draw this down inch wide.
Okay, 1 or 2 good hits, up, down, go lay flat.
Then we can start working the power hammer to draw it out.
Keeping the steel a bright orange to yellow color is important, making sure it remains workable to prevent cracking. Now that we have pressed to the final dimensions, we are going to use a hot cut to remove the rough ends of the billet. Now we're moving on to the blade. We'll be using wrought iron from an 18th century wagon wheel for a San-Mai billet. Not forging the billet too thin is really important because we still have to remove all the forge scale and flat grind the billet. Now I'm moving on to the angle grinder to start removing all the forge scale. Then I remove the ends of the billet to get the proper length. Finally, I move on to the 2x72-inch belt grinder and smooth out all the sides and do the surface grinding so that the billet is totally prepped for tomorrow morning. Today is day 2, and Steve has some interesting leather samples to show us for the sheath.
Anaconda, and then the Stingray.
Oh God.
I really like the Stingray because, I mean, it looks like diamonds in the way it sparkles, and it's not a very typical thing. A lot of guys.
I've never even held Stingray. That's
Yeah, it's
so
pretty,
wild.
Pretty sick, right? And it's really durable. It's really awesome.
No, it feels thick.
Yeah, yeah.
It almost feels like Vortex. All right,
So
I'll be
super
honest.
durable.
I think we gotta go with Stingray for this, just because of like how different it is.
So we'll incorporate that in the sheath.
Perfect.
Yesterday we got a lot accomplished with the knife. Today we're going to start by grinding out the shape of the buoy using the template Steve had.
So are we keeping it this thickness?
Well, with the distal taper, we'll take some of that out.
What are we working with here?
So first, we have a granite block that it's perfectly zero. So we zero it out, the 1, 2, 3 block. I've made my first line. Looks pretty good. You always flip it over.
There's our center line.
And we're dead center, right? So that's good. Swoop it up. Yeah, perfect. Yep.
Now that I have the center line scribed, I can now start grinding in the bevels.
So we've got our battleship steel, which we are going to turn into a guard for our knife. We have a template while that's heat treating.
So this is my handle material. One more, we'll trim this out some way because we don't need all that tab. And do you want it to bend over a little bit?
I was about to say, I really like that little flare.
That's what we'll do then.
Okay, let's do that. All right, so gotta get my line. So square this guard up. And now I gotta go to the grinder and get that completely squared and even. And then once it's flat, we'll be able to scribe our other line so we can true this to perfectly squared. So now let's go to the grinder.
The guard has been ground and the knife has been heat treated. We are now going to pass off the piece of George Washington wood to get stabilized so we can get going on the handle tomorrow.
What is stabilizing?
So it's a thermal resin, and you suck all the air out. You put it under vacuum in the SOS juice that we use.
Okay.
And once it sucks all the air out, you let it soak for however long. Usually 2 to 3 times, as long as you have it in a vacuum.
Okay.
And that lets it soak in, and then when you bake it, it hardens inside. It doesn't swell, move,
Like
whatever.
that flexing to where if you
don't have
bend
any
it,
of
you
that.
would feel it if it wasn't stabilized.
It's hard as a rock once it's
Okay.
done.
Well, I'm super excited to see what it looks like in the middle of that.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, boys.
Yeah.
See y'all in a little while.
Oh, yeah.
Now that it's the end of the day, we can all relax with some beers and get a little history lesson from Steve's wife, Amy.
It was built in a New York naval shipyard in Brooklyn in 1937, and it was commissioned in April 1941, which everybody knows December 7th, 1941 was Pearl Harbor.
Yep.
When that broke out, it was sent to defend the East Coast against the German submarine, where it was outfitted for war. It served in every major battle in the Pacific.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was reading online, like the history of battles it was in was incredibly impressive.
So it was in Guadalcanal, Iwo Jima, Marshall Islands. The Japanese radio broadcast declared it sunk 6 times, but it was never sunk. It was strafed by Japanese aircraft. It was hit by kamikazes. It actually got hit by a torpedo from a Japanese submarine once.
Shut up.
And all of that, you had 1,800 men serving aboard that ship, and throughout the war, only 10 men died.
Get out of here.
It earned 15 battle stars,
I saw that.
which is the most of any other battleship during World War II. And they had already called it the showboat because of the armament that was on it. It had 9 16-inch guns, and when it was alive, it was really something to see, I bet. So that made the knife really special.
Day 3 is final fit and finish day.
Holy shit. Wow.
Yeah, nice.
That's so beautiful.
We must now hand sand the blade so that you can see that beautiful sami pattern when we do the acid etch.
So the rule with sandpaper, and I hate to say it, you gotta act like it's free.
Now we're moving on to the final layout of the guard, where we have decided to do an S guard.
It's a little bit more curvy. That looks way better. I'm happy with that. Cool.
Alright. But one thing that most knife makers have found, the acidic hints of coffee will actually make this so deep from black on this. It gets a really
From
nice
the acidity of the coffee, right?
Right. We're gonna put that in there and let that soak for a little while.
That's
really
teamwork right there.
We got the wood back from being stabilized, and now we can start getting it prepped for final fit up.
So how on earth did y'all get wood from George Washington?
When the tree fell down, they knew they needed somebody to mill the tree, kind of get it off the property. At the time where we were at, we had access to a mill. So they invited us to actually mill the tree down itself. It fell on Mount Vernon. It was actually the last tree, I believe, that they said, given how old it was and the location, that they believe that he planted it himself.
Oh, wow. And y'all said there was a mark on the tree.
Yes.
So what's that mark?
The Union soldiers were coming up at the end of the war, and they stopped at Mount Vernon. They carved a cross in the tree, and then there's a good portion of that tree that went to the presidential yacht for restoration project.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So it's a cool story. Everything American about it.
The knife is in its final stages, and I am so proud of what it has become. It is by far my most intricate build, and I have learned so much from these guys.
So what's like the next goal for Black Horse Forge? Like what, in a perfect world, what would the next step be for what you guys are doing?
We want like a bunkhouse or like a guy that needs to come. I'd say over 80% of my phone calls are from wives trying to get the guys into the program.
Oh, really?
So the guy can come here, and then the family can come too.
Almost be like a resort or a retreat.
A retreat, because it is therapy, right? So there could be some long term. Like guys want to stay here a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, you're almost like a blacksmith halfway house.
We are, and it comes back full circles, and then they're helping out the other guys making really cool shit, and we're all just rocking and rolling with that.
Oh gosh, so good.
The knife is finally complete, and I'm so pumped I get to be a part of delivering it to Johnny Morris with Evan Hafer.
You came all the way out here to give you this? My gosh. Oh.
So, you might be one of the hardest people in the world to maybe get a gift that I think is truly meaningful. This took me probably a year of planning, I would imagine, give or take. So Lucas owns Grizzly Forge, is a blacksmith and a knife maker there at Black Rifle. Lucas, you can tell.
So I forged and made the entire knife myself. The blade is made of sami, so it's a sami billet that I forged out. It's from 18th century wrought iron from a wagon wheel from the 1800s. The S-guard on the buoy is from the hull of the USS North Carolina, which was the most highly decorated battleship in World War II with 15 battle stars. And then the handle is from the last known tree that George Washington planted at Mount Vernon. It fell 2 years ago. And then all the wood was harvested and donated to Black Horse Forge, which is a veteran-run forge up in Virginia.
And then the sheath is
Stingray with leather.
I thought Stingray might be pretty meaningful.
Unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. I'm overwhelmed. Like, what a beautiful from the heart gift. That's all I can say. From the heart, and like the effort, like the story behind every bit of this.
We did our best. I think we did all right.
Thanks. So.
Yes.
Work with a heck of a fellow, don't you?